Well, I don't know why I came here tonight. Guess I got the feeling that something ain't right. I got clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right, and here I am, stuck in the middle with Big and Hairy.
It's so hard to keep the smile from my face, 'cause you told me I'm all over the place. Well, to the left of me.
So here's a movie from 1998 based on a 1994 novel by Brian Dolly. The director of this flick is Philip Spink, whose other works include such iconic movies like Once in a Blue Moon, Kung Fu Killer, Voyage of the Unicorn, and Dragon's Rage. Yeah, never heard of them. But from these two covers alone, it's plain to see that they both have to do with our old friend Bigfoot. Gotta try and outdo Harry and the Hendersons somehow. Despite its age, it is still one of the better family-friendly Bigfoot movies we've seen so far. But this Bigfoot is into sports! How rad is that? Well, put on your basketball jersey. It's time to play with Big and Hairy. So we see a journal entry by our main kid character, Picasso Dewlap, played by Robert Burke, who writes about his family's move to Cedar Island and how it all went to hell. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, let us gaze upon this lawn gnome factory. I think it's the main attraction on the island because the Cedar Island gate has a gnome on it too.
My journal entries have been as predictable as the ceramic lawn ornaments rolling off the assembly line at the Bumstock factory, where my dad works now as a designer.
Bumstock? That's seriously what they call him? Yes, Ludlow Bumstock, played by Donnelly Rhodes, is an actual character in this children's movie. Not only is he a factory owner, but I guess he's the owner of this middle school basketball team, and said team is called the Lawn Ornaments. Yes, really. And Picasso is joining it to make friends. In reality, this only made his situation worse.
Go in.
Oh, you choked! You're a choker! An island boy wouldn't have choked!
Now, let's be real. He can't be any worse than this one kid we see doing, well, this. But of course, since he missed the game winner, it's all his fault. And because the team, and by extension this town, takes the game so damn seriously, our main character has made a lot of enemies that day. At least his coach, Donovan, played by Greg Thuroway, is more understandable than these assholes.
Get him next time, okay?
Yeah, if we get rid of Picasso.
And by the way, this was his first game. Expecting him to hit the ground running is madness. And that other player probably screwed them over more than he has. Anyway, we then meet up with Picasso's parents, Victor and Elizabeth, played by Richard Thomas and Shelton Crane respectively. They're overly supportive of their son and have the best words to say.
First game, first loss.
And the blame for that rests squarely on the shoulders of the other team. They simply scored too many points.
Anyway, they play near the factory while heading to some restaurant, and we have our first Bigfoot sighting. Well, this movie certainly has a better understanding of suspense than To Catch a Yeti. Just a matter of when the creature is fully revealed. At the restaurant, we see Bumstock giving a rundown on what this island is known for.
Cedar Island is famous for two things: lawn ornaments and basketball. Bumstock Lawn Ornaments is still the world's finest. Our glorious tradition of basketball excellence is on the way out. And who do we have to thank for that? Donovan, that's who. That big overgrown goon of a coach comes in here from away and thinks he can run things his way. He thinks he can let every boy on the team play in every game and still have a winning season.
So let me get this straight. You're upset that the new coach is trying to let all the kids play, and think that'll sink your chances of your team making the tournament? Like, I could understand if this was college or high school basketball, but middle school? Anyway, this one kid, Dexter, shows up to tell everyone what he saw.
I saw a bear running a dinghy right out in the cove.
Hey, get off my dinghy! Not you.
But as we see in the dirt, that's no bear. It's also here where we see our bully character, Roland. And like most movie bullies, he's unoriginal.
If you lose the game for us tonight, this is your head.
So naturally, Picasso's afraid to get into the game whenever the game becomes close. So far, we have a bully that's abusive to newcomers, and an elitist old bastard who takes basketball way too seriously. How will this all tie with Bigfoot exactly? Anyway, we move on to Christmas Day. The presents include art supplies, spoons, and a basketball that's painted as an eye.
Painted it to look like one of your eyeballs for identification purposes. And that way, anyone who sees it, they'll know immediately that it's your football.
Couldn't you just buy him a Nintendo 64? Oh, but let's not forget the handmade volcano that spews out flowers. I mean, I get it. The parents are in over their heads in supporting their son. But the movie doesn't have to make them this foolish. Picasso then stops by Donovan's place, since he's the only reasonable authority figure around here. We're also introduced to his wife, who's just only Mrs. Donovan, but that's not the important part.
Stuck in the middle with you inside.
Hey, if you saw what this thing looked like, you'd end it too. Would you subject our viewers to this thing? Okay, fine. Here's what Bigfoot looks like. Quite the looker, isn't he? He's played by Trevor Jones, and unlike Harry, whose head was basically an animatronic, this thing appears to be 100% makeup, and it looks really gross to look at.
Think he likes me?
And I know why. No offense, Mr. Donovan. You two look like brothers.
Why? Because of the beard? He doesn't even look that hairy. And guess what? They're going to stick with that joke throughout the movie, even when it makes no sense.
Well, he is certainly big and hairy.
Title drop. Well, it seems like the Bigfoot isn't dangerous, since he's only interested in imitating humans. And I know I should be moving on, but here's one more thing I need to let play out.
Did anyone see that show about Bigfoots? The one with the hidden cameras way up in the mountains?
Mm-hmm.
I bet he's been on one of those walkabouts. You know, the Bigfoot kids have to do.
1, how do you know it's a kid? And 2, that is the dumbest reason I've ever heard for this thing to be here. What kind of nutjob would think that this is what the Sasquatch or Bigfoot would do? Well, since neither Donovan really wants him here, Picasso decides to take the Bigfoot home, with similar reactions.
Achoo!
Hello.
Achoo!
After giving him a flower bed to sleep under, we jump to basketball practice the next day. Bigfoot sees Picasso playing the sport and shows that he can do it too.
Okay, come on.
And apparently, the same documentary explains that Bigfoot learns through imitation. Look, I'd be more accepting that this Bigfoot is an SCP-1000 instance, rather than whatever made-up nonsense this movie comes up with. Anyway, Picasso gets the bright idea to bring Bigfoot into the basketball team. This is a move that can help win more games, and make the other kids like him better. Good for you to admit your desire, even if this plan is nonsensical.
Look, Picasso, we do not need a Bigfoot on this team to win games. And when the other kids get to know you, they're gonna like you for who you are.
At least someone gets it. But Donovan lets Bigfoot join after he learns that if he doesn't win the next game, he'll be fired. So it's time to sign up the Bigfoot.
Pupil's name?
Ed Tibbets.
So his name is Ed, huh? No, not not again. I can't go back to that. And I guess the old lady doesn't see or care that she's signing in a Bigfoot. Guess she thinks he's one big hairy kid. Or maybe she's just senile. There it is. So they introduce Ed to the rest of the team. The other players are shocked, but they quickly get over it to start practice. What isn't expected is the arrival of a camera crew to catch the session. I guess the old lady ratted out to Bumstock. At least people are reacting to the fact they have a cryptid in their town, and it's about on par with Teen Wolf with how everyone treats their unique player after learning about him. Bumstock gets more indirect publicity for his factory, and it's also here where Picasso gives credit to Dexter for spotting the Bigfoot in the first place. This is how the two become friends, but now there are more hurdles to clear when other teams learn of the news. One of their team coaches complains that Bigfoot shouldn't be allowed on the team, and, well, I'm mixed about this. On one hand, I get it, especially since we're dealing with a large animal. But if Bigfoot is as young as suggested and has enough self-awareness to count as a person, then this just feels like discrimination towards bigger kids. Anyway, the matter is then brought to the attention of the basketball committee. The arguments for Bigfoot use a lot of logic from Ed or Trumpet of the Swan.
I've read the book, and as far as I can see, it refers to male and female athletes. Period. It doesn't refer to species.
So does this mean you'll open up the team to girls and or even trans kids? No? Yeah, figured you'd go with a wild animal over people. The ruling is that Bigfoot can play this season, but the rules will then be reviewed next year. With that, we get Picasso, Ed, and Dexter playing with some other kids. And hey, is that Star Wars?
Dave! Dave!
This also means that Ed is a student, so he's just trying to adjust to life in school. But he's also a minor celebrity with a shoe deal? And he shows his skills in the next game, where the lawn ornaments cruise to victory. Coach Donovan then learns that he has too many players on his roster. He's going to have to cut one person, so...
Turn in your uniform, Dewlap.
That was quick! While it seems like Picasso is sad, he does admit that his team is doing better without him. Most of the other kids go back to hating him, and, it's not his fault that this town is obsessed with basketball, and the team only lost twice on screen. I think it can manage. Ed feels bad that Picasso has to quit because of him, and it leads to one moment where our hero admits to wrongdoing.
I used you to make friends. Too stupid to understand that you're my friend.
Moving on, Bumstock gets mad at his employees after they produce a lawn ornament he didn't like, so he threatens to sack all of them if they don't improve their profit. This will be important later, but meanwhile, Dexter chats with Picasso about leaving the team. Our hero talks about giving Ed a chance to play, but Dexter doesn't buy it.
He was born to live like a Bigfoot with other Bigfoots. It's not fair to keep him on the team. It's not fair for the other schools, and it's not fair for Ed.
Given what we're about to see, he probably has a point. By using Ed like this, his entire self-worth is tied up with basketball. And besides, Ed's teammates aren't even playing that much. They're just being carried by their star player. We see this more clearly in the next game, where the lawn ornaments just thrash their opponents. The fans who showed up are bored out of their minds, except for Bumstock, and the town is starting to lose interest. To make matters worse, the other school teams are threatening to forfeit future games since they have no interest in playing against a team that's so much better than them.
If those lawn ornaments continue to slaughter those other teams, I might go out of business.
I I really have to wonder what sort of win-loss record this team had before Donovan came along. Because if this team was so successful before, then why would it be any different from when Ed came on? At least in other movies, the sports team that gets their special star player were originally doormats. Their rise was cathartic because they were so bad for so long, and the times when they prevail without their ace are even sweeter, because it goes to show how far everyone has come. But here, this does not feel like a team of scrappy underdogs. This looks like a decent team that just needed more time to gel. Over the next few scenes, we see Ed starting to show signs of despair. He misses his parents, who were briefly referred to in a previous scene, so he tries looking for them on his own. Picasso realizes this and tries to find Ed, and when he does, we see the latter freezing up, despite being super hairy. This causes Ed to miss the next game, which pisses off Bumstock to no end. Then Victor shows up with a new lawn ornament design, and...
Do you think that homeowners are going to want to put statues of fish cats on their lawns? Well, you're not going to get a chance to make a monkey out of me. You're fired! Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I pretty much expected that. He never seems to be angry for any other reason. And this leads to one of the main morals of the movie.
But of course we're different. That's why we fit in. Every one of us has to find our own unique place in the world. Our own special way to live our lives. If we try too hard to fit in by being exactly like somebody else, it's never gonna work.
Now that's fine, as it encourages everyone to be themselves without worrying about the expectations from society. Not sure how all this ties to basketball, but at least it's something. Donovan shows up and checks on Ed, who's still sick. The coach needs to win one more game to save his job and enter the tournament, so he suits Ed up anyway, if only to put him on the bench. Seeing their best player not in the game, the fans start chanting about wanting him back.
We want Ed! 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 We want Ed!
This pretty much affirms my belief that these people never actually cared for Ed. They just want their team to make it into that damn tournament. So no surprise, this causes Donovan to sub Ed into the game, which immediately causes the fans for the other team to boo him. Coach Donovan gets a change of heart from all this, and he calls a team meeting after the game to remove Ed from the team. He admits to being desperate when he was on the hot seat, but he's going to do his job properly now. At this point, the movie feels like it's dragging its feet as we have about 25 minutes left and we're not even close to a climax. Picasso was also asked to rejoin the team, but our hero doesn't want to cross paths with Roland again. But at least Coach Donovan holds his nerve when he explains his decision to the adults.
It's better than cheating to win.
You said it, Coach. She's right. That's right. It's true.
I'll remember this.
So now it's Picasso's turn to stand up for himself. This happens when Roland blames him for getting Ed off the team.
The way you can get back at me is to make us lose.
Cut it out, Roland!
You want us all to be losers, just like your stupid loser can't hold a job father.
You're just mad because you can't abuse Ed anymore. Piss off! Roland tries to punch Picasso, only to break his hand on a locker. Picasso tells his bully that, like it or not, he's a part of this town too.
Welcome back.
So are we now going to get that last game? No? Of course not. Instead we get a scene where the family acts weird, like normal. Roland tries to make prank calls to Picasso's house, but that fails. Then, while Picasso and Ed are out in the woods, they get ambushed by a couple of Bigfoot. But it's okay. These are Ed's parents. Said parents want to take Picasso with them, but our hero doesn't want to leave just yet. So Ed begs his parents to let his friend go. He succeeds, even if Picasso lands into some water, and they're able to meet up with the team later. Ed is later seen watching the game with his parents too. I guess he really wants to see his best friend play. Not much to comment on. Like with most sports movies, the final game is a close one, and Picasso is once again in a critical situation. He has to make a free throw after getting knocked down, and as everyone gets ready to call him a choker...
He's not gonna choke! He's an island boy! He's an island boy!
That's right! He's an island boy! He's an island boy!
He's an island boy, all right!
It took them this long to accept him as a resident of this island, yet it feels like they didn't really learn anything from their obsession with basketball. So instead of hitting the free throw, he does this. And thus they win the tournament. As they celebrate, Picasso sees Bumstock outside. The latter wasn't around to see the game, probably because of what Donovan said to him, but he's led into the celebrations anyway, just so he can give a speech about what he supposedly learned.
Ludlow Bumstock is a nincompoop. I want to apologize to Mr. Donovan and to all of the lawn ornaments for putting so much pressure on them to win. Not about winning ball games. It's about fitting in with people and belonging. And I haven't felt this good in 50 years now, and all to young Picasso Dewlap here.
So, can you rehire Victor then? No? Well, enough of that. Time to party! Right into some credits. Actually, we do get a mid-credit bit where Picasso thanks Ed for teaching him how to be a friend. There's a summary of what everyone is up to these days, and it ends with Picasso hoping to see Ed someday.
But I'll like it even more when he comes to see me, here on Cedar Island, the place where I fit in.
No. This movie was really bland. While I admit to liking at least one of the gags they had early on, it takes a long time for the movie to really get into gear. The third act also dragged, and the extras of this movie were infuriating, and they would be my least favorite part of the story if not for some named characters. Like, I know that sports are a big deal, but when it comes to middle school sports, that's where I draw the line. Maybe that's the point of the movie, which is to show how bad people are when they go down the rabbit hole of their obsessions, but it really gets me whenever people are this mean. Ed the Bigfoot is more tolerable than Ed the Chimp, but that design and makeup is nothing to write home about. His face is so uncanny that even Hank from To Catch a Yeti looks less creepy. Yes, you heard me. Then, as far as the town is concerned, the running gag about the lawn ornaments is just embarrassing. It's brought up again and again, and it's not funny at all. I think most original movies from the Disney Channel are more meaningful and entertaining than this. Even Air Bud would blow this movie out of the water, because it has more meaningful things to say than Big and Hairy. I'm the media hunter. Media's my prey, and reviewing them my way.
Get down the stairs. Clowns to the left and jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle.